Hello everybody, we are doing a fun little video today. I have seen this book making the rounds on AuthorTube, and I hadn't heard a whole ton about it, except people were like, it's really informative, it's really good, so I was like, I'm gonna get it. So today, I'm gonna read through this, and make notes and whatnot, and let you guys all know how I think of it. So that's today's video. I have heard from multiple AuthorTubers that like, you gotta read this, you gotta read this, you gotta read this. So I got the sample on my Nook, tried it, and I was like, well, there wasn't a whole lot to go off of, but you know what? Let's give it a whirl. What's the harm? You know, even if it's not that great, we still learn things. So that is what we're gonna be doing today in this video. So let's get on it. Okay, I just got to chapter 4, and I'm quite confused about what it is universal fantasy is. We've just gotten a couple examples, but then it's like, is simply put what makes your book taste good. And I'm like, okay. So I'm a little lost of what exactly it is we are looking at and doing to, like, you know, that sell your books to anyone kind of thing. Like, I'm still very confused as to what universal fantasy is in this regard, but we still have quite a bit of the book left, so we're gonna keep going through and see if we answer our questions, because we kind of got a little introduction, and she kind of introduced how she got to this step, and I'm just still lost, so let's keep reading. Alright, popping in to update y'all. I am waiting on my order from Taco Mail. I ordered DoorDash today because it's me and the boy tonight, and I was like, I'll make a little video while I'm waiting. I've gotten to part 2. I am about to start part 2. And this book has me so frustrated. I feel like it might have good information, but there is a lot of the, like, it literally says how, why. We'll figure that out in part 3. I don't want to have to go through to part 3 to figure it out. I want to just know. And so for me, already, that just gets me absolutely annoyed. Because I'm like, well, now I have to, you're forcing me to read the book, which obviously is what it is. But it's also making me want to stop, because I don't want to have to go slog through things to get the information, when you could have just told me on this page, and I still would have continued reading. And that's just for me, personally. Like, other people, you might read this and be like, oh no, it's fine. Like, that for me is the biggest thing right now, is just trying to get through this without getting so frustrated at that. If you want to know, you'll have to go to part 3. We're not playing pick your adventure or choose your own adventure here. Like, tell me. Just tell me the information. If you're telling me all the information, I'm gonna just keep reading it. Like, so part of me is like, I'm about ready to just stop, because I don't want to feel forced to have to read. I'd rather you just give me the information, kind of thing. And part of me is like, well, you're doing this also for this video, so we're gonna just keep reading it anyway. But I think I'm figuring out what it means. It's basically the rest of your book. She uses a thing of, like, the story is the body, your tropes are your brain, and this universal fantasy is the heart of the story. I'm like, okay, I'm kind of seeing what this means, but like I still haven't gotten like that full-on descriptor of what this is supposed to be. That is the closest thing we've gotten is an analogy, so I'm also like, can we just like talk about it? Like, I'd like to have it structured that we talk about what it is and then go into how to use it, instead of like this like kind of like back and forth ping-pongy of, we're going to talk about this and then we're going to hold off on it, we're going to talk about it later, and we're going to bring it back up later, but then we're going to push it off till later again. So overall, the structure of the book is driving me insane, but I still am interested in reading on and learning about what it's got to tell me. But yeah, structure-wise, not doing it for me. But I will keep you updated. Okay, everyone, update for today. I'm stopping for now to go read my other book before bed, but I just wanted to give you kind of an update on how I'm feeling with this. It is, for me, meh, but I can see how it's very good, and that is just because everything I have read so far, I did learn in when I went to college for creative writing. It wasn't called Universal Fantasies, but this all stuff is just like, this is why story is story. Like, this was stuff that was drilled into us constantly in classes and stuff. So for me, I'm kind of just sitting here being like, okay, this is kind of just breaking it down in a book. So far, I'm like, okay, cool, heard it before. But I definitely see why for people it has been a big help, because obviously, like, I went to college for this, so I had 4 years of learning this stuff, where I know a lot of people out there who are writing have not. So in that instance, I can see why people are really using it and getting good things out of it. So I am only about halfway through, just over halfway through, so I will continue reading and keep you guys updated. But for tonight, I am gonna just go take care of the dog and get ready for bed and go do some fun reading. So I will see you all again when I continue this with reading the rest of it. So, hi everybody. So I have finally finished this. It has been a couple days, so I did forget to record me going through the last half, like little clips and stuff, but don't mind my hair. It's doing its own thing today. It wants to be on this side. Just don't mind it. Don't mind it. Sorry if it's distracting. But I finished this and I gave it a 2 stars. And so, why, you might ask? A couple of reasons. First off, after I read this, I went online and just Googled what is universal fantasy. I looked at reviews, and basically everything you need to know you can find in articles and reviews. Simple as that. There's no real need to buy this book. So I kind of wish I had gone and looked at it before, but oh well, it happens, you know? I now have it. For me, what I really got out of this was the marketing piece. It very briefly talked about how to use these universal fantasies, I'll go over that in a second, to market your book. And for me, that part was really helpful, just because I suck at marketing myself. For one, my anxieties get in the way, and I'm like, nobody wants to see this. But then when I'm like, okay, I do have to market myself, I'm like, what do I write? What do I put here? What is this blurb gonna be? And so this did have some helpful stuff on doing ads and marketing and using the universal fantasies in your marketing to spark more interest. Now, as for the structure of the book, we'll go over that quickly first. Did not need to be this big. Not at all. It is mostly geared for romance, and especially dark romance. So it is very much giving examples around those versus everything else. And I would have loved to have a book like this that talked about like every other genre as well. Like, it very much focused on romance, and it was like, well, you can use it in the other genres too, but it never really went into them. So unless you're looking for romance, and more so dark romance, it doesn't really give examples or anything that is helpful. And then, on top of that, a lot of the examples used were from TV shows and movies. Which, you know, okay, fine. Except for the fact that TV shows and movies are made for a different audience than books. So when you're trying to describe something like this, it might not be the best option. It's easy for people to get because more people are likely to have seen the movies and whatnot, but it does make it hard to transfer it to a book in that instance of, you know, movies and books are written essentially for two different audiences. And this is coming from, I went to school for creative writing, and I learned both screenwriting, novel writing, nonfiction, poetry. I learned all of those. And in screenwriting, we had to learn how to focus our writing to the movie-going audience. You know, it's not the same as the book audience. And that's why a lot of movies, like book-to-movie adaptations, are not exact, because they're essentially making it its own thing to reach those other audiences. Of course, you're going to have the book audience from that book, but now you need to hit every other, like the movie audience. So, while those were kind of helpful, there wasn't a whole lot of books to go off of. She did use her own a lot, which was okay, but at the same time, it's not like a popular book that not a lot of people know, so it's harder to understand the examples. And then, maybe for me, this was also not as helpful because I do have this degree in creative writing, so I have gone into like really deep depths of storytelling because it was part of our curriculum. You know, that's the things we learned was the ins and outs, and, you know, not like just like the surface. You write something on the surface level and you're gonna get like an F. You gotta really dig through your story. I just shook my camera. Sorry about that. So maybe for me, that's one reason why I didn't find this as helpful. But then coming down to what is universal fantasy. In this book, she talks, the first part, kind of going back to structure, is a lot of what is it? What is it? What is it? Here, I'll give you a little tease. Oh, but then you have to wait. There's one part in the beginning that's like, oh, you want to know how to do this with universal fantasy? You gotta wait till part 3. I'm like, just tell us, please. I'd be much more interested if you just straight out went through, gave us things. So, that was frustrating. But it multiple times goes, universal fantasy is not a trope. But then you look at there's a list of the universal fantasies that are used in this book. And I'm looking at them and I'm like, obviously I read through and I know what they are, but it's very tropes with a different name. Like, reverse bully. He's a bully to everyone else, but a teddy bear for you. I'm like, that's Grumpy and Sunshine. And there's just so many others. I won't go in detail because this is going to be a real long video. But, like, all of these are some of these universal fantasies. It's like, these are just tropes with a different name. So, for me, it was like, why don't we just call them tropes? How to use tropes well. That would have been a better way of going about this. And maybe it's because some people look so badly on tropes that now we have this universal fantasy name. But to me, it was just like, this is just calling tropes by a different name, you know? It did kind of talk about them well, of how to use them well, which was good. But it still came back to that, why do we need to do it by a different name kind of thing for me. So basically, in reading this, it was just kind of a lesson on how to use tropes well. So it's not terrible, but it really could have been done better. Like I said, she says, what is universal fantasy? And then never really truly describes it. I think the best description is, it's what makes a story good. And it just keeps going off of tropes all the time. So for me, it was like, you're just creating something. But, you know, if it works for you guys, cool. But for me, reading this, I got a little bit of marketing help. But other than that, it was kind of just how to use tropes well. So, but anyway, yeah, if you have any questions about it, please feel free to ask down below, because I'm sure I'm missing something of what I was going to say, or if you want me to clarify or anything, let me know down below, and I will gladly answer anything that you may have of a question of this book. But yeah, that was my take on it. And yeah, if you guys have other writing books that you really love and enjoy and think are good, make sure to also drop them in the description down below, because I would love to know what books you use for your writing and whatnot, and maybe I'll make a video on them too. So I hope you all have enjoyed, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, everybody.